Welcome to Spiced Up Civics, your Minneapolis-based youth-led spin on a certain better-known YouTube series. Whether you're here for the poultry or the politics, we're glad you're watching. We're joined today by Jamison Whiting, who is running for Minneapolis City Council in Ward 11. He'll be answering some spiced up questions while eating some spiced up food. In this case, we've got wings and fries from Game Time Sports Bar right here at the Midtown Global Market. As always, we have a lineup of 5 hot sauces made right here in Minnesota. K-Mama hot sauce, Crybaby Craig's, Burn Your Face from Lovejoy's, Red Eye hot sauce, and from our neighbors in Wisconsin, we have Hellfire Doom.
That's how you know it's not very good, right? It's from Wisconsin.
I don't know, it's pretty hot. All the other ones from Minnesota, you know.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Yes. So, let's get right into it. I want to ask if you would mind introducing yourself. Just explain why you chose to run for office.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for having us, Charlie. It's good to kind of be here, and I know Chelsea is a friend of mine, and so having her, and you guys are doing great work, behind the scenes, even with this, and you said better known, right? Not better known for now, right? I think we're going to see how this is going to blow up here. My name is Jamison Whiting, so running for City Council here in Ward 11. Grew up in the ward, so I'm a Halefield, Washburn kid. Grew up just on the east side of Lake Nokomis. Coach actually football for our men's and women's football team now at Washburn High School. I've been working for the city attorney's office doing all of our consent decree and settlement agreement work related to all the police reforms happening, and just really excited to do this work. I love this city. I believe in the promise of it, and that's why I do it. I've been telling people I either take thank you or condolences depending on the day. And today is a good day to kind of have some wings and talk about why we all love doing work here in the city of Minneapolis. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for running, and let's get into some hot sauces.
Let me know what to do, Charlie. Yep.
All right. So first, we've got K-Mama hot sauce. It is listed as their hottest sauce, although I'm not so sure.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna let you start it up a little bit. I'll see how it works, and then I feel like we got to like cheers to it, right?
Absolutely, cheers. So, as you stated, you're a high school football coach. What would you say is your best coaching story?
Ooh, this is a good one. I have 2. So now coaching. So I've coached our boys team now for the last about 4 years, and just started coaching our girls team. And so the biggest thing I was asking my wife is also a collegiate athlete, played volleyball at South Dakota. She's actually like the athlete of the family, so she's the one that gets all the props. Kind of asking, hey, Kelly, how do I coach girls? I've never coached girls before. She's like, do the exact same thing, but they're gonna listen. And so it has been this piece that for me has been just like this weird kind of like, oh, they actually run off the field when you ask them to run off the field. The guys are like, oh, I'm too cool to do that. I'm like, so it's been really fun coaching our women's team now, just kind of seeing, the different interactions. And it's like, they're taking it like, hey, no, this is showing up. This is for real. So we get to hopefully, there's 51 teams across the state now, and so the state tournament actually is at the Twin Cities or TCO, so it's the Vikings training facility. So super excited if we make it to that point. But yeah, it has been an interesting experience, kind of watching the differences between our 2 teams. Yeah,
that's awesome. How do you feel about that?
It started early, but it's pretty good. So I'm like, I'm gonna keep eating because I haven't eaten.
Exactly.
I know I ran here right from work, so I'm gonna keep eating.
We'll go into our next sauce here. We've got Crybaby Craig's, habanero and garlic.
This is a staple. Right
Absolutely,
here.
absolutely.
Cheers!
Here we go. So, got another tricky question for you guys. What is one of the most pressing issues facing Minneapolis today?
Yep.
And why?
Yeah, it's 2. And so, I think for me, it's been public safety is kind of why I got into this work. And so, joined the city attorney's office after the murder of George Floyd. Wanted to figure out how I could put my legal degree and my kind of skills to use here in the city. And so for me, it has been, I see these reforms afterwards and what kind of the consent decree and settlement agreement are talking about as just pivotal kind of transformational moment in Minneapolis to kind of lead and be the leaders and be seen as the leaders of a holistic kind of public safety ecosystem, right? It's like, we do kind of need full support for our traditional law enforcement kind of aspects, and also I think the other thing too, it's been a piece that I kind of just started to realize. So I never thought I'd be working alongside MPD. I grew up here in Minneapolis and either had kind of negative or neutral interactions with our officers, and for me it was like, okay, how do I kind of gain and develop their perspective, right? How do I understand that? And, so I do kind of quarterly ride-alongs, and when officers are also, hey Jamison, I'm not a mental health expert, right? I'm not an addiction specialist. I'm not a housing, provider. We also need those supports. And so for me to be like, oh, officers are they're actually asking for these supports as well, these alternatives. And I think these things go hand in hand, right? We obviously need officers that can kind of come and be responsive for our violent interactions that happen in a large city, but also kind of seeing what that will look like on this kind of cutting edge portion of public safety as well. So I think public safety right now specifically, I think is a large piece. But then I think our budget, right? So it's kind of a boring one, but especially in kind of this moment of federal division and what we're seeing in our federal landscape in DC. Minneapolis is, and rightly so, right? Tim and Peggy and Tina and Amy are calling out Donald Trump. It's exactly what they need to be doing. But it's going to put a target on the city of Minneapolis, right? The largest city in the state of Minnesota. That means certain things. And so I think what we need to do, understanding that our budget might be kind of stretched thin, really kind of taking ownership of the basic city services and doing those things really, really, really well, right? It's because for me, I grew up kind of in the city of like Minneapolis does such a good job at those things so that the community, your neighbors, your coaches, your teachers can take care of the rest. And that's what I see kind of just the basics of Minneapolis doing. So it's a good question.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Then how about the Crybaby Craig sauce?
When I saw this one on the list, this was one of my favorite hot sauces out there. So I was excited to see that one. I was like, I'm doing okay. I'm getting nervous for the other three to go, but we're starting all right.
Yes. We got Lovejoy's Burn Your Face.
Okay. Well,
So
it's got a tough name.
it certainly does.
Hey, let's do it.
Here we
Another
go.
cheers. Mm-hmm. So we got a little kick to it.
Yeah.
It's got a kick.
Yeah. So, what do you think has best prepared you to be on the city council?
Ooh, beautiful question. Experience, right? I think that is the number one thing that we're looking for, and employers look for. That's what I think voters are, right? This is a 8-month job interview, and so I think for me, the biggest thing is experience. So, I would be one of the only folks on the city council that has worked for the city of Minneapolis. I worked directly for the city of Minneapolis, kind of on those pressing issues in the city right now, every single day. And so I think experience is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's sort of in relation to sort of growing up in
Mhm.
Your ward and growing up in Minneapolis. What would you say your favorite spot in your ward is?
Oh, that's a good one. So, because Minneapolis, and especially Ward 11, has a lot of really good spots. For me, I think anything along the creek is fun. I'm like, I would go down the creek with some friends. You start up in Edina, go all the way through Minneapolis, end at the falls. That was always a fun one. But I'm like, right now it's Washburn. I am such a Washburn stan that it's like, if you give me a call on a random day, I'm probably at Washburn at some point. I think so. It's kind of the thing I really like. It's like, when you fly in, when I'm coming in from anywhere I'm traveling from, you kind of you go over the top of Washburn. So for me, I think it's a pride, a level of pride that the city has. And so it's the first school in the city that actually had a turf field. And so that was always cool kind of seeing them when you kind of come in, when you get a big Miller as you're flying in. So I'm like, a big plug to Washburn too.
Yeah, shout out Washburn.
Exactly. There's probably gonna be a lot more of those to
Yes.
go out to.
How about the Lovejoy sauce?
It was good. It was less hot than I was expecting. It had a decent amount of flavor, and I'm looking at like the scale here.
Yeah.
We can get. It looks like we're still going even more to like hottest.
Yeah.
So
Our next
start with the
sauce got is the red eye hot sauce. This is where things get pretty hot.
There we go.
Cheers. So, you stated earlier, you work for the city.
Yep.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about city government?
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception is that the city work isn't getting done, right? We have 13 council members, we have 1 mayor. We have 4,000 city employees, right, that are dedicated to this work, that are doing good work every single day. That's from CPED to Public Works to Civil Rights to OPCR, that are doing really, really good work every single day. And for me, I think, when we look at kind of the political nature of what's happening in council and broadly nationally as well, I think what gets missed is the good work that our city enterprise is doing, right? And so for me, it's been really cool to be a part of that and kind of see like, okay, at the end of the day, we have one of the top ranked cities in the country, some of the best schools, the best park and lake system because of this dedication that these city workers do to it. And so I think it kind of gets left not talked about, right? Because they're the ones that are actually doing the work day in and day out. So it's been really fun to be a part of that as well. So yeah.
So shout out to Washburn, shout out to city employees.
Oh yeah. Yep. Union city employees too.
Yes. Absolutely. So how do we feel about the red eye?
It's making me a little more ready to go for this one. Because I was expecting that one to hit me a little harder. And it's there, it's lingering, it's sitting there.
Yep.
But I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready for this next one.
All right. Well, before we move on to our
Yes.
final sauce, I want to ask what is my favorite question, which
Okay.
is, who is your biggest role model?
Oh, biggest role model. I have quite a few. I think politically, it has been, it's Fear of Minnesota. It's been Keith Ellison. So I had a chance to, when he was still out in D.C., was working for him as an intern, as my first kind of job out of undergrad. I worked there, and it was like, a starry-eyed kind of, whatever, the 20-something-year-old, young guy went in there in D.C. walking the halls. The first thing we did on day one was had a rap battle. So I walk in, and Keith is like, "Do you rap?" And I was like, "Wait, the sitting member of Congress is asking me to do a rap battle." And I'd like it on record. He blew me out of the water.
Wow, that was my next question. Is how did it go?
He's pretty good. I think it's my mom. When I look at it now as someone that is kind of navigating this world, is thinking about having kids with my wife and doing a job. Her doing that as a single mother that had to deal with me and my sister. It's inspiring. And so when I kind of look at this, right, it's like city council, that's nothing, right? Doing all these police reform, okay, that's easy, right? Because I was able to kind of see how my mom made sure to put everything else aside and make sure that my sister and I did okay. So I would definitely put her up in that category as well. Yeah.
That's lovely. Well, are you ready for?
I'm saying let's do it.
Fighter
Okay.
Fields?
Yeah.
All right.
See, now I'm nervous because these ones were okay.
Right.
But I'm like, this is the last one, so.
Yeah. This one, I want to put heavy emphasis on. We had to go to Wisconsin because our Minnesota sauces were all just fine.
Okay, I was like, you guys had to like smuggle this in across, state lines.
Right. So.
Okay. Okay, we'll stick to the French fry.
Stick to the fry. I think that's smart.
Hellfire from Wisconsin. Okay.
I gotta be careful about this time because I messed it up.
And if it doesn't, I'm like, we might have to write a letter to Wisconsin.
Right.
Do it.
Cheers.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hot. Mm-hmm. It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's definitely there. Okay, yeah. Wait
Yeah.
a minute, don't be Charlie. That's a little one.
It
Yeah, there we go.
hits and then it hits.
It's going up and down.
Right.
It's going up and down on me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like a roller coaster.
Yep. See, that's my mom's side coming out right there. I'm like, she can't do pepper. So I think it's coming out.
Yeah.
We're getting there though.
Yeah.
I'll take my first sip.
Okay. Well, while we're sort of
Yes.
enjoying that last sauce, I want to ask if there's one thing you want our audience to know about you or your campaign.
Yeah, I think the one thing is we've kind of gotten lost in, I think, politics lately of partisan purity, of kind of divisive politics. And I think what happens in the middle is the people that actually need good governance are left out. And so I think, as someone who fully believes in the promise of Minneapolis, I'm not here to do it for this side or that side. I'm here to do it for Minneapolis. And for me, it's been a really good exercise of talking to your neighbors and talking to people that this actually affects and matters to. And so I think that's the biggest piece, right? Of like, hey, we can talk about politics day in and day out. We can talk about what that looks like in theory, right? I was a political science and philosophy guy, right? I can read all the books, do all that, but like, how does this actually show up for the residents and the people that deserve it? And I think Minneapolis again is such a great place because of what we do for everybody else. And Minneapolis, and I think the job of a city council member is to make sure that those things are taken care of and really allow everyone else to do the things that they know they can do and show up and have that ability to do, because that's what Minneapolis does really well, is we show up for people. And we've seen it during COVID or during George Floyd, but we also have to see that during times of progress and kind of in these moments of like, okay, we have to make sure those things keep going. So yeah, I think it's somebody I'm like, as long as I'm not in the room with like a St. Paul or Wisconsin person, right? I know I'm with you right here, but no, Minneapolis is the greatest place on the planet. So I'm like, we have to make sure that's the key thing. And like, we have our issues, but let's go ahead and fix it, right? That's why we're here. So, right?
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling about Help by Your Doom? Are you doomed?
Yeah, no, it stuck there a little bit. I'm like, there's some little welling up. I'm like, as much as I love Minneapolis, I'm like, I don't get too teary-eyed over it. So I think it's starting to get me a little. I'm sure you can see some. Maybe I'll need a tissue or something.
Right. Well, you can definitely that's where I'm feeling the buildup is right around my nose.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sitting down with me, having some hot sauces.
Yeah.
I'm getting spiced out, but we really appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you all for watching.
Thank you, Charlie.